And now we are learning of major escalation of tensions in the Middle East as US President Donald Trump is reportedly weighing a limited military strike on Iran. The initial assault, if authorized by the White House and the Congress, could come within days and would target select military or government sites. Officials also are suggesting that the goal is to pressure Tehran into agreeing to US demands over its nuclear program while avoiding a full-scale attack that could trigger widespread retaliation. In fact, Zaka Jacob now joins me early this morning. Zaka, what is your assessment of the volatile situation? The volatility remains, but the deployment, particularly by Washington, is huge.
Oh, yeah. This is, I think, the biggest deployment that American forces have seen in the last year, that's since President Trump has returned to office. Look, a couple of things are clear here. I think when he spoke at the Board of Peace inauguration yesterday and then subsequently on board Air Force One, I think President Trump is giving Iran a little more time. As he said, between 10 to 15 days. Basically, he wants Iran to agree to a nuclear deal. Now, the question is, what are the contours of that nuclear deal? And what is it that Iran can find acceptable? Now, one of the non-negotiables as far as America and the rest of the Western countries is concerned is that Iran give up its right to enrich uranium. Now, Iran says that that's a complete no-go area because nuclear weapons at the end of the day are just the ultimate form of strategic deterrence. Ask Ukraine. Ukraine had nuclear weapons when the Soviet Union collapsed. They gave it up under the Budapest Agreement. And look at what happened subsequently. So I think Iran will have to find a deal which is acceptable where they can say that they won't enrich uranium beyond a certain threshold, not make it weapons grade. The other complication is the ballistic missiles program. Both America and Israel are very clear that any deal with Iran will have to include the ballistic missiles as well. Again, from Iran's point of view, the ballistic missiles are their form of deterrence against Israel particularly. You saw last time in last June when America attacked the 3 nuclear sites of Iran, Iran hit back with these ballistic missiles, including the hit at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the American Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Although the damage was minimal, it did put that strategic calculus, the possibility of an Iranian retaliation, into the American-Israeli calculus. I think all of those reports about, Trump being ready to strike as early as this weekend, etc., I think might be a bit exaggerated. I think Trump is giving Iran more time. I don't know if there will be another round of talks, indirect talks. We've had 2 rounds so far between America and Iran, mediated by the Omanis. Will Trump be in the mood for another round of talks? I doubt it. But I think Iran basically has about 10 days to 2 weeks to get back with a concrete proposal, which Trump can then claim as a win. At the end of the day, what does Trump want? He wants a quick deal. I don't think he's interested in a sustained, long military campaign. And if he's not getting this deal, even according to this Wall Street Journal report story, what he's looking at is a short burst of air power so that he can get the Iranians to accepting the terms of a deal. Nowhere in this is anyone, either the American side or even the Iranian side, talking about any kind of possible regime change. I think that is being looked at as a possible last step, if at all we get to that last step.
So essentially it is a deterrence posture when it is about the air power on display. But Zaka, do you really think that the live fire exercises that Iran conducted along the Strait of Hormuz, that was pretty much a tipping point for the US to go ahead and come up with this kind of a deployment just to show that aggression, and this 10 to 15 day deadline, the extension of the deadline as has in fact been noted by Washington, is mere farce?
No, so look, the American deployment in the Middle East predates this Strait of Hormuz exercise which Iran was carrying out. What it does, though, is again, it forces America to double down because Iran is basically saying that it too has retaliatory options on the table, and one of which is to block the Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, so that would be catastrophic for countries like India, China, big importers of oil from the world. So I think Iran is showing that, look, it's not going to be as easy as America just comes, does a few days of airstrikes, and then Iran caves in. Iran is saying that they have retaliatory options as well, one of which, like I said, is trying to block the Strait of Hormuz. I think the American buildup of military power, naval power, predates that. He has been, the The Abraham Lincoln, the first U.S. Aircraft carrier to be moved to that area, was asked to be moved, I think, about 3 weeks ago.
Yes, yes.
And now the second one will join very soon, as early as possibly this weekend, the Gerald Ford. So I think he's trying to build up pressure. He's trying to, in his own words, move this massive armada in the hope that the fear of such massive American military power, or at least the possibility of such an attack, would make the Iranians a little more flexible and eventually concede to this deal, this nuclear deal that Trump is so badly looking for.
Right, Asaka, thank you so much for joining us. And let me now take this across to a special guest who is with us on the broadcast. Professor Peter Kuznick, who's the author and professor of history at the American University, is now with us. Professor Kuznick, what is your understanding of this rapidly evolving situation? A posture of deterrence by both Washington and Tehran. Do you see this spiraling out of control into a full-blown conflict?
It's very hard to predict what Trump is going to do under any circumstances. Trump did bomb 7 countries, including Iran, in his first year back in office. He thinks that his kidnapping of Maduro in Venezuela was a great success. And he's being told that he can do a similar kind of operation in Iran, which would also be successful, but it's full of contradictions and very, very dangerous. He claimed in June that he totally demolished the Iran nuclear program. Now he wants to go back and bomb it again. Zaka Jacobs' analysis was very, very sharp, but he left out one important thing, and that's because he's not in the United States. The news in the United States is all about Epstein, about Epstein. Trump wants to get people talking about something other than Epstein. Today, with the bringing in of Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew,
yes,
what people are saying in the United States, well, if the Brits could bring in the former prince, then why can't the United States look at what Trump did, Trump's involvement? Trump is in their files, some say more than 38,000 times. Some have said up to 1 million times. So this is a distraction. Trump is a master at distraction. But in the United States, he has given no explanation for why the United States should do this. And when he's hinted at certain things, he keeps changing it, moving the goalpost. So he wants to get rid of the missiles, he says. He wants to have regime change. He wants to go after Iran's proxies and allies in the region. And he wants to go after the nuclear program, which he said he destroyed already. It doesn't make any sense. As he's put massive assets in the region, and this is going to be potentially very, very dangerous, the ramifications. Iran is not a little country. It's not Venezuela. It's got 90 million people. It's got missiles, a very large missile program. It can strike U.S. forces in the area. It could strike Israel again. It could strike U.S. bases in the region. It could shut down the Strait of Hormuz. It could hit other oil facilities if they choose to do so. So this could be much more of an undertaking and lead to regional warfare. This is very, very serious.
So, Professor Kuznick, would you also suggest that whatever posturing that we are coming and looking at from even Israel, from neighboring nations, which will significantly be impacted if at all this becomes a full-blown escalation, all of that is a distraction, a headline to keep away from this entire Epstein scandal? Because so far, Trump has managed, it's his governance in the United States of America, and he's brazenly managed to keep everything away. The DOJ is constantly going ahead and backing all the claims that he's been making, that he's got nothing to do with the Epstein saga.
Trump has got everything to do with the Epstein files. They're redacting the information. They refuse to release 3 million more files. They're doing everything they can to humiliate the victims of Epstein, while they're doing everything they can to protect the victimizers. And so Trump is playing a very dangerous game because his approval ratings are in the toilet in the United States. What, 35%, 36%? Very, very low. His own supporters are furious with him about his behavior, and many of them don't want to see the United States going to war with Iran, especially since there's no justification. There's no explanation for doing so. Before George Bush invaded Iraq in 2003, he spent months, more than a year, trying to explain why the United States was doing that. But negotiations take time. When Obama negotiated the Iran nuclear deal in 2015, he spent more than 2 years negotiating it. Trump is talking about negotiating this in 2 weeks because he thinks he can behave like a bully and get a quick win. But the Iranians are not playing his game. The
Absolutely.
Iranians,
We don't think that the Tehran is going to be waiting on the next move by the United States of America. But I do want to understand from you this entire weekend deadline that one is looking at, and these reports that US could go ahead and strike Iran as early as this very weekend, this Saturday, that is tomorrow. Do you think there is any merit, or there is just a kind of rhetoric that we see on display over here? And the way everything is headed, because here we're also looking at the initial term of President Trump as the president of the United States in 2018. He famously tore that nuclear deal with Iran, and he said that he's not going to go ahead with it. Do you see this going anywhere, this agreement, so to speak, the talks that continue?
The Iran nuclear deal was extremely successful. Iran shipped out almost all of its enriched uranium. It mothballed most of its centrifuges. It was enriching to a maximum of 2.67% under the deal. It was a great deal. It was working. And Trump tore it up. Now Iran enriches up to 60%. Now Iran started its centrifuges again. Now it's got the stockpiles. We don't know where they are anymore. They stopped allowing the investigations from the IAEA. So we've just had this tremendous setback from Trump's reckless destruction of the deal in 2018, and then his recent bombing. But Trump is not a normal politician, and the Trump regime in the United States. We all talk about the Iranian regime, but it's really the Trump regime. And Trump is surrounded by a lot of people who think that using force is the answer. The Stephen Millers, the Pete Hegseths, the Kristi Noems. These people, as Miller says, it's the law of the jungle. Might makes right. We have to use force. And Trump said to the New York Times that interview, he says they asked if there are any limits, any constraints upon his use of force, and he said, only my own morality, only my own mind, not international law, not international customs, not ethical considerations. So we haven't seen this kind of naked use of force, and it's very dangerous and it's very reckless. At the same time as he tore up the New START treaty, refused to extend the New START treaty, now we're on the verge of nuclear anarchy, in addition to trade wars and the kidnapping of leaders.
Yes.
The world is at a very, very dangerous point right now, and that's why I'm hoping that he decides not to bomb Iran, not to invade, not to start another war, but you can't count on Trump to do the right thing.
Right, Professor Kuznick, thank you so much for that assessment and the analysis of yours. Thank you so much for joining us on CNN News.